let's get started with the session today. And the focus of today is all about how to create stunning looking proposals. So if you're new to these sessions, if you haven't been to one of these Friday sessions before, these sessions are 60 minutes. We stop these sessions exactly on the 60 minutes because it is the weekend. And if you are in the UK, if you're in Portugal, like I am, then it's 5 o'clock in an hour's time. 5 o'clock on Friday, so time to finish. So we have to keep it to an hour. The format is this. We will share something about the effective pricing software, some content, and then we'll also answer questions. It's very interactive. If you've not been before, please ask your questions. As I said, the focus today is on the proposal side of the software. Emily's going to be our expert, talking us through how we can build beautiful proposals. But we'll also take questions on any other aspect of the software. So if you have no idea what effective pricing does, if you have questions, stick them in the comments box, put QQ in front. That way we know it's a question. So QQ, then your question, anything to do with effective pricing, we will aim to answer it in the session today. Also, just a couple of other things before we get started. If you are new to the software, if you've never used it before, then or you are a beginner, then one of the things that you may be interested in to help you get up and running is we have a getting started checklist, and this checklist walks you through the onboarding process with the software with some various links. There's also a checklist built in, that is the onboarding, a checklist for how to create your first pricing model with step-by-step instructions that you can work through. We also have a checklist for how to do your first quote with some links to some training videos. If you've never done a quote in front of a client before, then there's a checklist for that, the pricing success metric, how to build your proposals, and so much more. So what we'll do is we'll put in the comments box somewhere the link to that getting started document. So if you've never seen that before, I recommend that you work through that. If you're a beginner with the software, that'll really help you. The other thing and I can see lots of people coming in, I'll do a few shout outs in a bit. The other thing I want to mention is, as you know, when you come to our live training sessions, one of the things we do is to help make the world a better place. We make a contribution to a project somewhere around the world on your behalf. So as a thank you for being here live today, and we do this through the B1G1 organization, and our chosen project for today is to help children, nursery school children over in Ethiopia, where they have real problems getting access to medical treatment. So for each and everybody here, we will be making a contribution to give medical treatment to a nursery school child for a day for each and every one of you. So thank you for being live. When you come to our live sessions, we will make a contribution on your behalf to make the world a better place via B1G1. Okay, so we are, I think, almost ready to get started. If you are completely new to the software, then just very quickly, the software is designed for you to use in front of a client so that you can involve them in the pricing process, so you can price with confidence. It's got lots of price psychology built in, value pricing principles aimed at getting you higher prices. And last Friday's session, we did a little bit of I asked in the comments, what results are you getting? And people were using the software, about 20% higher prices, and a few people were getting 50% and more higher prices using the software. So the software is designed to get you higher prices, to agree with the client. That's the primary reason for it. But once you've then done that, you can also create beautiful proposals in a matter of seconds, minutes, and that's what we're going to look at today. So if you're a beginner and haven't and never seen the software before, let me know if you have any questions, but just so you know, we're focusing on the proposal side today. Now, before I bring Emily in, just a few more shout outs and see if any questions just come in. So Brian Davis is here from Washington. Over in the US, hi there, Brian. And then Ren is here. Is it? Yes, Rennie is here. Good to see. Well, it's not Rennie. It's actually Rennie's assistant, Ace, is here. We also have Carlton, Yvette said, what did Yvette say? Looking forward to the new pricing model. So just if anyone wants to know, I did a session last week on how you can use the software and put it in place with your clients. And we're working with Yvette to build a model for hair salons. So if you were with me last week and saw the bike shop repair business example, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Valentina's here from Edinburgh. Hi, Valentina. Brian Davis says, is the software available now? The last time I looked at it, I thought you weren't accepting new users. Brian, we probably weren't. It is available right now. And if you want to find out more, just go to effectivepricing.co.uk, Brian, and you'll find out more about the software. And of course, ask any questions you want. Oh, and Rennie is here as well from Prospero. Hi, Rennie. Okay. Is this somebody related to me? Just bear with me a second. Wickersham, you related? I don't know. Hi from Wilmington. Third day in a row watching you. Oh, so you're at the Live Plan Bootcamp, of course. Yes. Okay, so welcome. So you saw a little bit of the software yesterday. Okay. Right, I'm going to bring on the star of the show because I'm just here just to learn myself. So let me bring Emily on. Hi there, Emily. You all right?
Hello. Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to shut up, Emily, because I know you've got loads of things to share, and so I'm going to let you do that. But just a quick reminder for everybody, if you have a question at any point in time, put it in the comments, put QQ in front, and we'll deal with questions at the end, but it might be that during the course of the process, we may pause and see what questions are coming in. So just ask your questions. So if you're ready, Emily, do you want to take it away? Let me know if you want to. Just tell me when you want the screen turning on.
Yeah, we can share my screen.
Do it now. Okay, we'll do.
Yeah.
Here we
So last week, not last week, 2 weeks ago, when we did the last session, I went over a couple of things in the software on how to build nice cover pages and back pages and how to build nice banners. And I showed you a couple of templates of how your proposals could look in the end. Since then, I've developed a couple of more. So just to give you a quick overview of the kind of things that you could be creating using the proposal builder and effective pricing. We can see one here I built for Mark. I'm not sure how laggy that is, but for the bike shop kind of idea, I'm not sure how well that's coming through on the screen. I think there's a bit of lag, but you get the idea. Here's another one. This was built all completely in the software, with the software using Canva, like I showed last week, bringing images through. All these ones are all different shapes and sizes as well. We've got a 16:9 template, or we can do A4, either portrait or landscape. So we've got a portrait option here. Just to give you an overview of the kind of thing that you could be able to create using the software. And a couple of portrait options here as well. We've also got US letter size as well for those in US and Canada, I imagine, as well use US letter size. So just an idea of the kind of things that you could be creating if you use these techniques and top tips and stuff that I'm going to show you. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to take one of the pages from here and I'm just going to rebuild it with you so that you can see the process, see what we do with bringing images into it and how we get this kind of outcome. So if I just switch my screen over to my software very quickly and show you. So the first one I'm going to recreate is on a US letter. Landscape, which is, I believe, this one. Oops, just got to sign in again. Bear with me. This one. Right. So just to show you which one we are recreating, if I just enter the preview mode here, this is what it looks like. I'll just zoom out and give you a proper view there. This is one I created for Nancy, who I believe is watching today. this kind of thing that you can end up getting if you use techniques I showed you last time and some of the stuff that I'll show you today. So I've just picked this page here that's got this nice triangle design on the right hand side. It's quite simple, and I'll just show you how I achieved that so that you can replicate something like that. So if we go back to the editor, I'm just going to add a brand new page, and I'm just going to call it copy page. And that'll add it to the bottom of my account, bottom of my pages here. I am just going to drag it up so that it's next to the page that I'm copying so that I can just flick back and forth between them. So I'm copying this page in the top left here, page 1. This is what it looks like in the editor mode. And I'm going to recreate that for you. So if the first thing I'm going to do is something I showed you 2 weeks ago, which is how to make this banner using the text boxes. So I'm going to make that really quickly because you do have the video from 2 weeks ago to show you how to make that. So the first thing you need is to add your section, and we're going to click and drag a text box in there. So it's not just a click, you have to click and drag it into the right place. And using this little abacus feature on the right, that opens up your editing mode, and we're going to reduce the section. That's the first thing we do on all of the boxes. I reduce the section on everything. And then we're going to click the abacus again, actually, and over here on the left, we're going to add the background color. So the colors I already have written out for the one I'm using. I just type that in there and click OK. And I will then click the pencil icon, and I'm just going to literally press the enter bar twice. So that's added 2 spaces into that top section. Click save. If I then come back over to this elements, I'm going to add another section. Again, I need to click and drag, not just click. And what happens is it says section there. It says it's recognized. I'm going to drop it and I pop it in there. And then again, I want another text box. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Click my abacus, reduce the section margin to 0 so that there's no edge, and change that background color. This time I want my light gray color, which I have ready is FC2. And in this one, I'm going to click the pencil icon, and I'm just going to put 1 enter space. So that should have made our banner. That's something I showed you last time. So the next thing we want is if we just pop back over and look at the other page, the next thing we want is this title. So fixed price agreement with client name. So if I pop back over to my copy that I am making, again, we drop in a section and we drop in a text box, and we go to the abacus and we reduce the section margin. That's always the first thing we do. We're then going to click the pencil icon and we can type in there fixed agreement with, and then on the left hand side next to the key icon here is all of the keywords that you can pull through. So we're going to pull through the client name, which means when you're using your quote, it'll pull through the right client for that quote every single time. So if we don't have to click and drag this one, we just click it and it drops it into my text box here. I can then edit this text by highlighting it, and that brings up all of the things that I can do with it. I can make it bold, italics, I can change the font size and the font itself. So just to match the one that I did on the other page, I'm going to make it into this Poppins font, and I'm going to make it, I think, 35. I just highlight, so you might notice every time I click off, that bar goes away, that editor bar goes away. I just need to highlight the text every time, and that brings the bar back up for me to edit. Click the bold icon, and then something you're going to need to do with all of your text, because we have reduced that section margin, and because we are using something that has no page margin either, if I leave that text where it is right on the edge, it's going to sit right on the very edge of your page, which isn't going to look right. You want it to kind of be an inch or so in. So there's this little button here that just puts an indent, and I normally just press that twice and give it 2 indents, and that just moves it away from the edge of your page. And also using that indent feature, it means that if you're putting more text boxes below, you can make sure everything lines up exactly because you've pressed that indent button twice every time. I'm also just going to drop that down one line because I know that that's going to sit really too close to the banner and I want there to be a bit of white space above it. So I'm just going to drop that down a little bit. And then I will hit the enter bar, and what I'm going to put in is an underscore. So you know where that is. You hold down the shift key and it's the dash button on your keyboard, and it'll put in a few lines like this. I'm then going to highlight those, and using the text color button, which is this one here, it's not the one with the it's not the A on the right hand side that will highlight the background. It's the one on the left will change the font color itself. And I just have to find the closest I can get to Nancy's brand color here, which I think I used this blue here. And just going to click save and continue, and we can go and see what that looks like so far in the preview mode. So this is the page we're trying to achieve. And so far we have got the banner on the top and the title and this little blue line. So the next thing we're going to do is add the text and this triangle image on the right hand side. So if I come back into my editor and back onto that page I'm working on, again, we're going to add another section and another text box and make that section no margin. That's the first thing we do every time. And just for ease, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip back to my other page and I'm going to copy all of this text. You might be copying from a Word document, or you might type it straight into your box if it's something that you're copying a proposal that you normally have or your fixed price agreement. And I'm just going to click this pencil icon, which allows me to edit, and I'm going to click just Control V and paste that all in there. Now, obviously, that's going to have copied all of my fonts and things correctly in colors, but just to show you again how that would work, if I just highlight all of the text, again, I can edit everything here. So I would make that all pop-ins just for sure. And I'm going to make all of this text the size. It does automatically say here, it says 42, but I want that to be 14. And I want these ones up here to be 16, just a little bit bigger. And what I have pulled through here is the proposal date. So again, that is using the keywords on the left-hand side here. So I just typed in date and then I clicked this proposal date, and that's going to pull through the date, which means when you use this template, it's going to pull through the date and it's going to pull through the proposal number that you've entered when you completed the quote. I highlighted this and made it bold, and again, just gave it the right color. So that's pretty straightforward editing your text. Again, make sure it has that indent. You can see here that it lines up with my title. We don't want that to sit right on the edge, so we need to make sure that all of that has that indent that just pushes it away from the edge a little bit better. And then to add our image, I've already made an image on Canva. I just grabbed 2 triangles. It was very straightforward. I used the dimensions of this document because I am working on a US landscape sized proposal. I already have the dimensions ready, so I know the width of this document. So I enter in the right width, and I enter in the height that is maybe a little bit smaller because it's only sitting in the middle section of my page. And I just added triangles on the right. So I created a rectangle image and just added the triangles on the right. So if I just use this abacus button here again, and I go over to the left, there's an option here that says upload background image. If I just click upload, it will let me select a file. So I'm not sure you can actually see the file on uploading, but it's here. Yeah, so you can see it here. It's a white background, but it is a rectangular image that I've added here that just has the triangles on the right-hand side because that's where I want them to sit when I build a proposal. So I click save. That's going to drop that in there for me. What you can see has happened, though, is that this image is a little bit too big and it's cut off the corners of my triangle here. It's not sat nice and neatly. So there's a couple of things that you could do. You could click the abacus button here and you can change the image width here, which will make it a little bit smaller, or you can make it a little bit bigger and play around with it. What you also might need to do is, if this image is too large already, then you click into the pencil icon, and I'm just going to add a few enter spaces, and that kind of drags the image out. I'm going to add a few at the top, add a few at the bottom, and you can see that that's kind of, it's just dragged that image a little bit wider, and the triangle now sits nice and neatly on the edge there. So if I now click save and continue and enter the preview mode, that triangle should be sat nicely on the right hand side of the page. So this is the first page. Just zoom out so you can see it a little bit, and we've just recreated it there again. So what another thing you might want to do, because you've added this triangle image here, is that you don't want your text to overrun onto that triangle. So sometimes what you need to do is come to the page and just force a line break. So if you click the click the pencil icon, if I were to just let that fill the page, you can see it would run over onto my triangle. So I've just chosen a spot, I've clicked just before this word hour, and I've just pressed the enter key and forced it to do a line break there. If you're not sure where that's going to break it, you can enter to the preview mode and say, right, I want it to go about where that line is, and pick a word, and then come back in here and add the enter key. So I've tried to kind of replicate, let it flow around this triangle shape here as well. So that's how you would create a page like that. We've used the banner, we've got the title, we just added the text and made sure it's got that indent. And then we're using a background image on a text box. We're not using an image box, we're using a background image that is the full shape of that text box. It's not just the triangles on its own, it's the full rectangle in position behind the text, and that fits nicely on the page. So I'll pause there and see if we have any questions about that.
Hi, Emily. Yes, we do have one question coming so far. So it's from Yvette. Yvette says, could you please mention what size templates you use when you scroll through the samples you made previously? Are they A4, letterhead, 16:9, landscape, or portrait? So I guess that's when you showed the examples earlier. Could you just talk through the sizings?
Yeah, so if I just share my screen back to PDFs. There we go. So this one is a US letter landscape. And I have a document with all of the pixels sizes that you would need if you were going to create something like this. I have a document that lists all of the pixels, and all of these options are in the software as well. So this one's US letter landscape. This one is a 16:9 presentation style. This one is the same again, 16:9. This one we have an A4 UK sized letter in portrait. This one is a US letter landscape. And number 5, we have a US letter portrait. And number 6 again is a US letter in portrait. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. I think that's the only question so far. But if anyone else has questions, remember, just stick them in the comments box. We'll get to them, and stick that QQ in front just so I can see it's a question. Yvette says, wonderful, thank you. So that's answered that one. Thanks, Yvette, for confirming. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to head back into the software again, and I'll show you another page, and what we might do, just to give you a few more options. So I will show you a US letter portrait style, and how we would format the text and the images and stuff on there. So just to show you, this is another one I built for one of our clients, Tammy. And we're going to recreate this page just to show you how I've added this. The banner and the footer, again, this is something we did 2 weeks ago, and I'll show you how I got that image to sit in that position there, and how I got the text to sit in these 2 columns. So if I go back, and again, I'm going to make just a brand new copy page, and I'm just going to drag it up so that it's next to the one I'm working on so that I can just flick between the two. I believe it's page 2. So the first thing I need is my banner. And like we did in the previous session 2 weeks ago, we're going to drop an image box here at the top, and again, make sure that that section margin is 0. I'm going to click in and I'm going to upload an image that I've already created on Canva, which I called Tammy Banner, and just upload that image. There we go. That sits on the top. The next thing is 2 text boxes we're going to need, and we're going to put them into 2 columns. So that actually happens automatically in the software. What we need to do is add a section and then add a text box, and you can see that fills the whole width. If I just click and drag another text box, it automatically puts them side by side into 2 columns. The maximum you can have is 4 columns of text. So again, I'm going to reduce that section margin to 0 because I want it to be smooth to the edge. And I'm then just going to copy the text that I used on this previous page. Again, this is something that you probably will have it from a Word document. So you just copy and paste your text, and then we can edit it and format it in whatever way we need to. I'm going to drop that down a few and just go and grab the other text there as well. And I'm just popping that in there, and I'm just adding a few spaces so that the text doesn't sit right on top of my banner, because it will push it right on top of my banner. So I just add a few spaces so that there's a little bit of wide gap on the top. So that will pop my text in there perfectly fine. I think when you do copy and paste text like this, it often doesn't copy across the formatting. So you would probably have to add your fonts back in and your sizes and just make sure that everything is how you want it. So I'm just quickly making those that 14 and that 14, just because I know that that's what I used when I built this. So I'm just copying. Again, make sure we click the pencil icon before we edit anything, otherwise we can't edit this text. Highlight all the text, and it brings up my edit box. I'm just selecting the font that I want. I just highlight it all again because I've lost my box, and that brings my box back up. And I click 14 for my size of my text. Again, this is something I've done here is I've used that indent again. So this is 2 indents away from the edge, and then just to make that that column skinny, I didn't want it to overrun into the other column or to, sit too close to it. I wanted it to be the right size that I want it to be. So I came in here and I forced a lot of line breaks so that I knew that it would sit as close to that size that I wanted it. I then did exactly the same on this side. I've only given it 1 indent here because I have allowed for some space on the left column. By forcing my breaks, I have incorporated that space in between the 2 columns, so I don't need as much indent here. So if we just go and have a look and see what that looks like in the preview mode, you can see the gap that there is between the fonts here, between the 2 columns. So there's enough of a gap here for it to look neat. So then the next thing we're going to need is the footer, which again is something I've already made. So if I just come back into here and I add a section, and then I add an image into that section, and I reduce the section margin to 0, and I click in there and I add the right image that I've already prepared. That's going to add that image there. So what would happen at this point, because I don't have any spaces after the wording at the end of this text box, that footer is going to sit way too high up on the page. So if I just show you in the preview mode, it's going to sit immediately after the text. So you can see here, I want this to sit at the bottom of my page, and it's not. It's sat right after the text. So in order to push that down, I need to add some spaces to the bottom of this text box. So this is normally a little bit of trial and error, but because I already have it made on this one, I'm just going to cheat and copy the amount of spaces I used there, and just come in here, click the pencil icon and paste those spaces there. So that should now sit nicely at the bottom of the page. If it's overrun or anything, then we can just go back in and edit it. So here we can see I've copied one too many spaces. So if I just go back into the page I'm working on and I click the pencil icon here again, and I just remove one of those spaces and go a little bit of back and forth sometimes to make sure that that's fit as close as possible to the bottom. So now we can see it sits on the bottom. You do sometimes get this tiny little bit of white edge, but that's as close as you're going to get it unless you start fiddling around with your font sizes, which could take you a lot of time. So I then looked at this page and I thought, well, there's this big white space. Why don't we put something in that white space? So I'm going to put an image of Tammy. And to do that is we're going to do exactly the same thing we've just done. Again, I have already made this image on Canva, and we're going to use a text box and add a background image to that text box. So we're using the little abacus feature here, and it brings up your menu on the left. We're going to click upload and choose the right file, which I have one already made. You can see now when I've added this, it's too big and it sits behind the text. So we need to edit it a little bit so that it works. Now, one way you could do this is I've built this image on Canva. You could go back and forth between Canva, but there are ways you can edit it within the software that actually work. So if you use this abacus feature here, again, it brings up your menu. I'm going to change the image width. I'm going to reduce it, and that will make my image a little bit smaller. And then what I'm also going to do is on this section here that says horizontal alignment and vertical alignment, I'm going to vertically align it to the bottom of the page, and that's dropped it down a little bit there, you can see. So I'm then going to head into my preview mode to see what that looks like, because sometimes it doesn't give you a perfectly true picture in the editor. So if we head over to the preview mode, there we can see the image sits quite nicely. I could maybe make that a little bit bigger. I could maybe, it's maybe a little bit to the left. So what I might do is just head back to here, use the abacus and just change the horizontal alignment over to the right a little bit. And I can make that just a tad bigger. And I can just play around with it by changing these features until it sits in the position that I'm happy with. So there we go. That's quite nicely in that space. So that's how you would make another one of those pages. Pause again for if we have any more questions come in.
Yes, we have a couple of questions, Emily. I also have a couple of points I thought I'd just share with those of you who are new to the software, perhaps not explored it before, just in case you're getting confused a little bit. Effective pricing is all about getting you better prices. It's pricing software. We're just not looking at that right now. We're looking at the proposals at the back end. What the software is not is graphic design software. It was never designed to be a graphic design system. It's a pricing software which happens to allow you to do nice proposals, fixed price agreements, engagement letters as well. But what Emily's been an absolute genius at is figuring out how to hack the software. So she's been hacking the software, and also with her knowledge of Canva is figuring out, as you can see, how we can get creative with the settings in the proposals to build amazing looking proposals. This is not graphic design software, but Emily's just found some amazing ways to create some really professional things. Also, if you're thinking this looks time consuming to do, well, yes, it is, but remember that you're only building a proposal template once. The real magic here is that, as you've seen Emily mention a few times, you then build in your keywords. And that means that every time you agree a price with a client, You can then produce your proposal in seconds because it will just automatically insert the keywords. So each the keywords, the price, and so on and so forth. So it's a one-off exercise to set up a beautiful proposal, and then you can use that every time you do a quote. If you don't want to go through the process Emily's talking about, I mean, she's teaching you how to do it yourself. I think she'll mention later that if you want a shortcut, she can create them for you. She's mentioned a few that she's done, and I'm sure Emily will mention that later. But Emily, we've got a few questions, so let's deal with those. I think Wendy's got a couple, and I think Yvette has. Wendy's question is, which size is preferred better for a proposal, portrait or landscape, or is it your own choice? And I think it's a choice, but have you got any thoughts, Emily? Have you got a preference?
Yeah, I think it's your personal choice. It's just what design suits you better. Like, we can design it on portrait or landscape. It's just whichever one you prefer the look of, really.
Absolutely. I think that if you want to print them out like a conventional proposal, which I wouldn't because we're in a digital age, but A4 or US letter size in portrait would probably be what people are used to if they're signing an engagement letter, for example. And so if you're building an engagement letter in there, you probably would want to use it portrait. But equally, if you're part of the Value Pricing Academy and you're used to having those wonderful, if you've got a pricing brochure designed by Stephen, then you might want your proposal to also reflect your brochure, which you used earlier in the process. And so in that case, you might want to use landscape. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is from Yvette. She says, do you adjust the margins in Canva or effective pricing to create the nice full bleed sections?
Yeah, so you adjust the margins in the effective pricing software. So if I just share my screen again, I'll show you how to do that. So when you start a brand new proposal, or if you use a template, if we head over here to this little settings cog on the left, you can select which page size you want to use. So here I've got US letter selected, or you might want A4 or 16:9. And you can also change the page orientation, whether you want it portrait or landscape. We use this page margin little toggle feature here to reduce the page margin right down to 0. So if you did want a page margin, you can add it back on, but it means that any images or anything that you add, they won't bleed off to the edge of the page in a nice design. There will be that white gap around the edge. So I always put the page margin to 0, and then I work around things like the text sitting right on the edge. I can just put a few indents and work around that, but all of my images sit nicely off the edge of the page. But that's where you edit all of your page margin sizes.
Awesome. There's another question that came in, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Emily, but I did have something that I'm not sure whether you're prepped to do or not, but it kind of fits in with Wendy's question. So Wendy said, all images, are they designed on Canva? And what I was wondering, whether you might want to take, for example, that simple triangle thing you did earlier and perhaps show how you do that in Canva, if anyone finds that useful.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, and while you're doing that, Yvette says, awesome, I got it. So that's good. Thank you, Yvette. Let me flick are you ready to do screen share?
I just need to switch to my Safari tab, and I have it open and ready to go.
Okay, wow, that's efficient. Here we go then. So this is how you create those triangles.
So in Canva, the first thing that you're going to want to do actually is if you come to the main homepage and you click Create a Design, there is a section that says Custom Size. So you want to make the image the right size for the size that you're using, whether you're using US letter, portrait, landscape, whatever size you're using, you need to know which pixels are the right one. So I know that the one I was working on, the US landscape letter that I want, the one I did for Nancy, I know that the pixels for that were 792 width by 612 height. So the image size I made was, as you can see here on my tab, it says here, 792 width. So the width is the same, but I've just reduced the height. I've kind of halved it because it's only sitting in that kind of middle chunk of the page. And that was a random guess. I just went around about 350. I made it there, and then I can adjust it in the software if it's not exactly perfect. So I made that size, and then it gives me this white box. It gives me a blank white box, like so. It just gives me a blank white box. And I then go over to my elements section on the left, and lines and shapes, and there's a triangle there. So there's a kind of a normal triangle, or there's a right angle triangle. I think I use the right angle triangle, but obviously you can play around with this kind of stuff and build anything you want. You can use circles and just have a go and design whatever you want. But this triangle one I made, I got this right angled one, and I use this little rotate thing and get it so that it says, there we go, it's on a 45-degree angle, and I pop it towards the edge. I just click and drag and move it. I can then click and drag to expand it and just sit it there on the page until it's right to the edges there. And then in the top left corner here is where I can edit the colors. So if I click in there, I actually already have the colors loaded up, but if not, then you click this add a new color, and again you can type in your code or just pick a color using this box. So I've made I'll put a light one there on the bottom. Then you can either go in here again and click another triangle, or you can just copy this one. So just click on it and either do Control C, or there is a button up here that says duplicate. So I just click duplicate, and then I'm just going to line it up just a little bit further back. So it's hanging off the edge of the page, but that doesn't matter because anything that hangs off the edge of the page just won't be seen. And then I'm going to make that color the gray color, and there's your image. That's it. A couple of seconds. And you then click the download button, and it will automatically suggest you do it as a PNG. If you're making something with a more complicated image, so you're using like the image, people in an office or something, you use an actual photo, an actual stock photo. Sometimes the image is too large to upload into the software, so you would have to use this drop-down menu and make it a JPEG, and then you can alter the quality, make it really high quality or low quality, and that will reduce your file size if you make it less. But things like this with just a few shapes, you should be fine uploading that into the software. So you would download that image, and then you would head back into your software and just click the image box and upload it like we did previously. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Awesome, thank you. Wendy said thank you. So thank you, Wendy, for that feedback. We have a couple of questions. The first one might be for me, actually, Emily, but I'll answer it. So Valentina says, how can the client sign the proposal digitally when we will send the proposal? Could be signed and then sent back to us in the same way electronically. So Valentina, the software doesn't do digital signing. So you either, and the reason we don't do that is because everybody's using different software now for doing digital signing. And so there is, depending on what you're using, there may well be a way for you to take the PDF and put it into your system. So for example, I know that David Pankovic over in Canada, and he did a session on this, which is on my YouTube channel. What he does, he uses Practice Ignition. And the two tools work together really, really well. So he does his pricing in effective pricing. He then produces a beautiful proposal. He creates his PDF and he then puts it into Practice Ignition. And then he then uses Practice Ignition to do all of the onboarding, the signing, the collecting of the money, and all the things that Practice Ignition do. So if you're a PI user, then these two things work really, really well together. You just have to, there's a brief manual process of transferring your proposal from the software into PI. So I don't know what you use for digital signing, Valentina. There may be a workaround for you, but it's not done within effective pricing. Okay, the next question I've got is, and the last one at the moment. So if you've got any questions, stick them in the box. Anything you want to know about the software, we do have 15 minutes left. If not, then Emily's got loads of content, I guess. But Nancy says, so how do you know these sizes? Is there somewhere to look up the sizes for the different pages? And the great news is Emily's helping you out there. Do you want to explain what you've got, Emily, the resource?
Yeah, so I made a PDF. I gave it as a resource for the last session. I'll also upload it in our portal this time. It's just a PDF, and it's just a table that has all of the sizes for whichever size you're using, 16 by 9, US letter or A4, and either portrait or landscape, or all of the different variations. And it also has variations for if you're using a full screen, or if you're using the header or footer inbuilt in the software. Because the header and footer take up a little bit of space, it reduces the size of the images that you need to add. So it's got all of the various options on there, and I'll upload that as a resource with this recording in your portal area afterwards.
Thank you, Emily. And I've actually noticed that Sarah's actually done that. She's put the links to that proposal dimensions into the comments in both Facebook and YouTube. So wherever you are right now, you should be able to see the link to that document. You can click on it and download it. By the way, we've had a few people say, so there's no questions yet, Emily. So it may be the next thing you do is talk a little bit about how you can do their proposals. But Valentina said, thanks. Yvette said, and by the way, if you're enjoying this, if you're getting some value from this, could you just click the like button and perhaps just give a comment below, just like Yvette said. Emily, your graphics hacking skills are amazing. You're a Canva Pro wizard. Thanks so much. So if anyone else got some feedback for Emily, just stick it in the comments box. Nancy said, thank you. So whilst we're waiting for some more questions about the software, Emily, I don't know if you've got something else you want to show, but do you want to just talk a little bit about how you can help people if they want you to help them with a shortcut?
Yeah, so hopefully Sarah can drop a link in somewhere, and we have a page where you can sign up. I'm currently building these templates for you, because you can see it's something that I do within a couple of seconds, but for somebody who's not really well versed with the software, it can be quite fiddly and take quite a lot of time. So it's something that I'm doing. I'm building these templates, and I can build it for you in your software with your logos and any brand images you have, pictures of yourself, pictures of your office, all of your brand colors, everything like that. I'll incorporate everything that you want, build you a template, and then that's something that you just use going forward. Once you have that, that is your proposal template for all of your proposals. And it's something that the idea is, once you've got that template and it's incorporated the key words, you basically finish your quote, click the build a proposal button, and it will build your proposal instantly, because it'll have pulled through all of the keywords that you need. You don't need to go in and change anything for individual people. It'll just pull it through. So once you've got that template, you have a proposal to give everyone. So that's something I'm doing as a service for people. I've got a couple of people already, and I've probably got capacity for maybe about 4 or 5 people every month. But hopefully Sarah will put the link in there, and if you're interested, you can sign up. There may be a little bit of a wait time, but I'll email you and say, I've got so many people, so I will get to your project at this date, and I'll let you know how long that wait time is. But if you're interested, then just go ahead and click and sign up for that.
Hey Emily, it's okay to say your mum, because for those who don't know, Sarah is Emily's mum.
I always say Sarah.
I know it feels a bit strange. I have the same issue when I'm because I don't know if Gab is watching or not. Gab is working for us as well. Gab is my daughter, and so when I'm doing emails to Emily, I always say thank you or whatever and sign off as Mark. And then with Gabby, I always sign off as Dad because it just feels a bit weird signing off as anyway. That's some of the fun confusions when you've got a family business. Okay, what else do you want to know? And this is a question for questions for either Emily or me about the software generally, because I think we're running short of questions and we have 10 minutes left. So what else would you like to know? There's a few more comments come in, so I'll read out the comments while I'm waiting for some questions to come through. And I'm just checking I've not missed anything. I don't think so. Crystal said, thanks, Emily. Darlene, are you related? We've got Crystal Williams and Darlene Williams. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence. Karen says, thanks, William. Emily, thanks, Emily. Where did William come from? Not sure. Anyway, Valentina said, what did she say? I don't have enough words to say how great things you can do. Following you today, it seems very easy, but might not be so easy in real time for me. But I will take up the challenge and give it a try. Otherwise, I'll ask your help. I think Emily said it takes her a few seconds. The first time she was hacking the software and figuring out how to do one of these, I think she said it took about 6 hours, Emily?
Yeah, it took all day. But now one in 20 minutes now. Yeah.
And now it takes 20 minutes. Yeah, so there's a learning curve. Karen said, I thought so. I wasn't sure what that's relating to, but anyway. Valerie says, Brian says, thanks, Dad. This is really great. Okay. I'm still waiting for a question. Some more comment. Oh, no, the question's coming, I think. I think it might be from Valerie, but what did Valerie say? Excellent, Emily. I followed you 2 weeks ago. Managed to create cover and back sheets, my proposal. Awesome. Well done. Today I learned how to realign my image to the right. And I think there's a question from her as well. Let's just do them in order though. Nancy said, Emily, not only do you have an eye for design, you're brilliant at figuring out how to hack the effective pricing software with Canva. Absolutely, Nancy, she is. And the designs are really good. Okay. Valerie said, when I created my back page on Canva, when I upload it onto Proposal, why does it show an extra blank page at the end?
So if I just screen share my software again, I think what you're saying is, just go into one of these ones. So if you're looking, oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong one. Let me just switch over to Google. This one, okay. If you're looking over here on the left and you've got an extra, just a random page at the back, I think it's because it automatically defaults to give you one page. So if you've started by adding your own pages, maybe that extra page is still there at the back. So let's just say add a page. You've just got a blank one at the back that's got nothing on it. And you've already designed everything else on all of your pages. Just if you're not using that page and there's nothing on it, you can just delete it. So if you click edit and delete, it's like that. Another thing that possibly could be happening, if you've got a lot of stuff on one page, sometimes things can run over onto the other page, but it maybe doesn't seem like it has. So if you've got lots of text and you've maybe hit the enter bar a couple of times after that text, it might have run over onto the next page. So just double check that if you've got a text box or an image box, if you've put lots of enter spaces in, it might have run onto the next page, but it's just blank enter spaces that have copied over. So it doesn't look like there's anything on the page, but just go back and check that you haven't got any of those text boxes. What you can do as well is there is an option in the elements here to add a page break. So if you just click and drop that, you don't need a section for that. You just drop that there. That will force a page break. But if you do have the text box with lots of enter spaces in it, it will still run over onto the next page. So just double check that that's not something that's happening. I think that might be what the issue is.
Brilliant, thank you. Lynn says, excellent presentation, easy to follow. Thank you, Lynn. We have a couple of questions come in. One's actually for me from Rennie. Not 100% sure I understand it, but let me just see if I can. So Rennie says, you don't include a pro forma for the firm signature, just the client's. Do you think we should include our signature as well with our image as Emily just shown? I'm not quite sure what you mean by the first sentence. You don't include a pro forma for the firm's signature. Do you think we should include our signature as well with our image? If I understand your question right, Rennie, I guess you're talking about you having a digital signature as an image that's on the proposal, and I don't see any reason why not. You could do that. Emily, do you think I've interpreted that question correct, or do you think there's something else I'm missing?
I think that's what he means. Yeah, if you've got a digital image of your signature, you can just upload that onto here as an image, and then it's on the proposal. If that's what you mean, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if it's Ben or Shah or Ben and Shah, but the question is, will that be a template that we can reuse? So when you get the software, one of the things that we've already done for you is in the software, we've created some templates for you to get you started. Now, at the moment, at this point in time, there are just 3, and those 3 are, there's 2 one-page ones. One is a draft proposal, which is a 1-page. If your client can't decide whether they want the bronze, silver, gold, and it shows all the different packages, and they can then go and think about it. Ideally, you close the deal there on the session, but you could have a draft one if you want. Then there's a single 1-page payment plan as well. But then we created a full proposal for you with words, designs, and so on that you can use as a starting point. But what we plan to do fairly soon now, I think, is we're going to create one or some more designs for you, some fairly general designs, and we'll probably do. I'm kind of speaking on Emily's behalf because I'm not sure what she's planning on doing, but I'm thinking what we'll probably do is 2 or 3 different designs, perhaps a landscape one, a portrait one, with some very generic designs like triangles and things that look great, that you could then adapt and edit. Emily, do you want to add to that? Have you got any kind of thoughts in particular on what you might create as a general template?
Yeah, so I'll make a couple of general templates that will, like Mark says, that will have kind of more shapes and stock imagery, and it will probably incorporate our stock text in there as well. So that if you're happy to use that text, then we can set those ones up, and you can just take that and use the generic ones. I think a good thing is to have a little bit of personalization in there. So have your own logos and your own colors and things like that. So those are things that you would have to change going forward, or there is the option that I build you one that's specific for your business, but I will build some generic ones that people can use. Yeah.
Great. We've got time for one more question, I think, but a comment from Nancy. We definitely are keeping Emily's brilliant proposal for our business, but this is great because we're creating a demo ideal client for the price consulting service. So for those of you who have no idea what Nancy's talking about, so Nancy's one of the people that Emily's building a proposal for, but Nancy also, obviously, I guess you came to last week's session where I showed you how you could build pricing models for your clients. So it sounds like what Nancy's going to do is create a proposal for a fictional business like the bike shop one I showed last week, I presume. So thanks for that comment. So this is the last question we have time for from Yvette. And she says, can parts of the proposal template be copied and used in other documents, for example, the engagement letter or the payment plan? Emily, do you want to answer that one?
So what you can do is when you access the template, you download the template, and then you kind of clone it, and that becomes your copy of the template, which you can then go and edit. And our root template that we've built stays the same, but you take it edit it any way you want. So what you could do is then clone that template again, delete the pages you don't want, and just use those pages you do want in your engagement letter or whatever. But you would have to go and clone it and rename it as something else, and then just delete the excess pages that you don't want. So you could do it that way, yeah.
Absolutely. So once you've got your beautiful proposal template done, you clone it, and then all sorts of things you could do. You could clone it and then change the words so it's more appropriate for an engagement letter rather than a proposal, for example. Or it might be that you take your proposal template and you clone it and you tweak the wording because you want a version that's got wording specifically for e-commerce businesses. You might want to have a different wording. And then when you do a quote for people, when you use the software to come up with a price and you've agreed the price, when you then go to do the proposal or the engagement letter or fixed price agreement, you'll be prompted for which of your templates to use. So you can start to clone and adapt and build a whole library of different styles or wording for different proposals. You can have a proposal, fixed price agreement, engagement letter, and then you choose which one you want to go for each particular client and the quote you've done. Okay, we have got to the end of our hour together. Yvette says, great, thank you. Thank you, Yvette, for that feedback. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for all the great questions. Thank you particularly to Emily for being brilliant again. And if you'd like to have Emily back sometime showing some more stuff, just say so in the comments and give the thumbs up, whether you're in Facebook or YouTube. Click that like button. If we get lots of likes, then we'll get Emily back again sometime. So anyway, thank you, Emily. If you do want Emily to create something for you, just bear in mind she's on holiday next week, but she can do 3 or 4 more before the end of January. July. We're into July, aren't we? I'm thinking of winter already. Okay, so final comments from me is we're not having a session next week. We're having a day off because Sarah and I are having a vacation, a weekend away. So there's no session next Friday. And the next one will be 2 weeks today, the next Q&A on the software. I don't know what the topic will be. If you've got any requests, let me know. We'll probably do one aimed more at beginners on how to do a quote in front of a client, the words to say, and so on. So I'm thinking of something like that for our next session in 2 weeks' time. But if you've got any suggestions, if you want me to cover a particular issue in the software, let me know, and we'll plan that for a fortnight from now. My next live session is I do have a session on Monday. I have a guest on Monday who's going to be looking at how you can analyze your website data, Google Analytics, that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in that, usual time with me on Monday. And if you're in the Online Live Academy, then on Wednesday of next week, I'll be going through how you can launch your business club. And I'm excited by that session. So I know many of you are in the Online Live Academy, looking forward to teaching you how to launch an online business club. Have an amazing weekend. I can see a few people said some great things like David. Thank you, David, for your comments. I have seen your video, by the way. I do need to respond to that. Valentina said a big thank you. So thank you, Valentina. And as usual, I play out with some music because I can then read your comments properly. Have an amazing weekend. See you online again soon. Goodbye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.